Try some of this. Did you ever get high before?
Only when I can afford it.
What a cheap trick. It's on, people! I saw this movie. I was at the premiere.
Welcome back, everybody. This is HeadFever Podcast. I'm Jamie. I'm here with Zach. Hey, Zach.
Hello.
On this episode, Zach is going to be talking about a little movie I recommended to him called Big Business, starring Bette Midler.
You recommended the movie Big Business, which I had never heard of before, starring Bette Midler and the other lady whose name I can't recall right now.
Lily Tomlin.
Reason. Thank you, Lily Tomlin. It was the tip of my tongue, but it didn't quite make it out. Which is a movie about, I'll just start at the beginning, honestly. So it opens with this rich couple in this small podunk town, and the mother, the woman is pregnant, and she's due any day now. And it just so happens that it's coming, like the kids are coming right now. So they stop at this little tiny hospital on like the side of this, it's a street that has like 6 buildings on it because it's in the middle of nowhere. And it turns out it's a company hospital for people that work for like the only manufacturer in the area. So the doctor in there, I think, and the nurse, one of them, the staff tells him that it's only for company people. So he runs across
It's like the weirdest thing I've ever heard of.
like, I'm sure it's a thing. I haven't experienced it myself, but like, it's a big world.
The town has like 53 people that
probably
live in it.
at most. So they tell them where like the boss man lives and the house across the street because it's that kind of town.
Yeah.
So he runs across the street, and the boss man comes back with the couple, and he's like, "Meet you the new owner of like this company," and like. So there's at the same time a hillbilly couple who was also about to give birth, and like, oh, it's coming, got another one on the way because they got like fucking 50 kids.
They're like the joke couple.
Yeah,
from
they're like the
South Park.
Yeah, or they're like the hillbillies from The Simpsons.
Yeah,
like it's that kind of family. So they show up to the hospital at the same time, and they establish early on with this joke about like urine samples and apple juice that didn't really quite pay off, which I was kind of weirded out by.
That's for Big Business Part 2.
Yeah, big business too, even bigger business.
Pissening.
The pissening. So they the nurse can't quite, her like comprehension or eyesight isn't quite good, and they wind up mixing up the twins. Both of the families, in an astonishing coincidence, give birth to 2 twin
one
girls.
Of the most like iconic,
Contrived.
Universal coincidences of all time.
Right.
2 people in one hospital have identical twins.
I guess they imply that the hillbilly father over here. I was trying to think of like a more like progressive term for the man.
For hillbilly?
Yeah. I was gonna say like lower income, but it just sounds forced. So fuck it, he's a hillbilly.
Uh-huh.
He overhears like what the rich couple names their daughters. So he comes back and he's like, "Well, how about these 2 names?" She's like, "I love them."
Rosie and Sadie.
Yes, Rosie and Sadie. So they're both named Rosie and Sadie, and like they happen to. I don't even know how to explain this. The one twin from one pair is transponded with another twin from the other pair, so both sets of siblings grow up mismatched. Mm-hmm. So there's like the two Bette Midler.
So instead of identical twins, the couples both go home.
Becomes like a weird odd couple.
What they think are fraternal twins.
What they think are their fraternal twins,
yes.
but they have identical twins.
A brunette and a redhead.
They just don't realize this
right.
yet. So the Bette Midlers, or the Bette Midler, whatever you want to predict.
It's the Bette Midlers.
The Bette Midlers are both kind of like aggressive and like they know what they want and they want to go for it. Fire redheads, which I love. They want to go for, they want that urban lifestyle. They want the money and things like that, which I don't know how you ingrain that in genetics, but whatever, they've got it. It's a movie. And then the Lilies Tomlins, they are a bit more laid back. And they don't mind the kind of like rural lifestyle. They want something like a bit slower.
Life.
They want a simple life, basically. So in the beginning, they establish that the Bette Midler, who runs this major company in New York, they grew up with the rich couple, and her quote-unquote sister, who really doesn't really seem like she wants much to do with running a company in the slightest, who's also a neurotic wreck, are like this weird odd couple. And Bette Midler is like this like cutthroat businesswoman who is on top of her game, and she's the kind of person where when she walks into the office, everyone knows her name and like runs up to.
She's like from The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah, or she's like the old man from OCP. Like everybody knows who she is, and she's just this like take no shit, take no prisoners kind of person. She's big business. She is the titular big business. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end, back in Podunk, you've got the other Bette Midler, who is also kind of like fiery and like wants out of like the hog hole that she lives
Yep.
in.
Jupiter Hollow.
Yeah,
is the
Jupiter
name of the
Hollow,
town.
which is an awesome fucking
It
name for a
is.
town. And
There
I
should be
would
a horror movie that takes place in Jupiter,
Jupiter Hollow sounds like it takes place in a horror movie, yeah. But Jupiter Hollow is an awesome fucking name. And then the Lily Tomlin from Jupiter Hollow has also got that kind of like weird fiery. It's kind of weird because like in their pair, there's no like low key person. But in the New York pair, there's one person
There's a
who's
dominant,
kind of
subdominant,
dominant
in the New
and
York
like subordinate. But in
sister and-
right in the Jupiter Hollow twins, they're both kind of like really aggressive, which I thought was kind of
Well,
weird.
and they're more like on each other's side. Like
Yeah.
they're much nicer to each other. They're much kinder. They
Right.
meet each other in the middle. They're more sympathetic. And the New York
They're
sisters,
closer.
the Lily Tomlin of the two is just dominated
Right.
by the Bette Midler.
The
who's
Bette
just
Midler kind
constantly
of
telling
views
to
her
shut up
sister
and
as
she's
dead
an
weight.
idiot.
Yeah. And the I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head, but the big corporation that the Bette Midler New York runs is buying the company in Jupiter Hollow.
They own it and they want to sell it.
It's called like Hollow Maid or something like that. They own it and they want to sell it to this guy who's like some kind of like weird suave Italian man that comes in later.
I think they want to do strip mining. Is the idea?
Yeah, what they wanted to do was they wanted to strip mine like the land in the
Yes.
town, basically.
Which
it's
would
like
mean
a
that all those
quintessential
residents would be homeless.
Right. It's the quintessential like bad evil corporate plot
Right.
that it comes up in all the time. One thing that immediately set the tone for me for a while in this movie was something that the mother says in the beginning when she's in the car with her like rich husband, which is that's why I doive do, which again nobody talks like that. But like this attempt at like fucking like pandering baby talk like between couples is just like revolting and disgusting. So I thought I was gonna hate this movie. Actually, I felt like that for a long time, even though
You're like fighting like every urge to let the movie kind of happen to you.
here's the thing though. Like I will watch anything with Bette Midler in it. I as a straight masculine
she's
man.
Fucking fantastic.
She's
Can we
fucking
just give
fantastic.
her praise
I
in
loved
general?
The First Wives Club. I thought it was a charming fucking movie. I would gladly watch it again at any
Same.
fucking point in time. But when I found out Fred Ward was also in this movie, who is one of my favorite fucking
Yep.
actors of all time, I was fully on board. I will watch anything with either one of them in it, and the fact that they were both in this fucking movie sold it for
And
me.
Lily Tomlin is just so charismatic.
I'm not familiar with Lily Tomlin, but I loved like I think this might be the first movie that I've like noticed her in. I'm sure she's been in other things, but like I loved her in this too.
And
Like
you gotta give
the
credit.
cast was great.
You gotta give credit to like actors playing two people,
That was
and then you have two of them
It was-
in one film.
so this movie was like fucking weird for me because you've got the two actors playing two different characters in the same movie, and what drove me fucking crazy about this movie for the longest time up until like the last 20 minutes was it was just scene after scene after scene of them like almost crossing paths.
Serendipitous.
The
Yeah.
serendipitous,
meets.
like one of them goes into the door, one of them comes out. They're both going down the escalator differently, but looking different directions. That kind of shit drove me nuts.
70% of the plot.
Yeah, it was like
movie.
edging, like let me fucking come.
Yep.
Like God, stop teasing me. Yeah, it was. And then it finally happens at the end of the movie.
Well, so to explain that, the sisters from Jupiter Hollow get a letter from the Hollow Maid Corporation that there's gonna be a meeting in New York City where they're gonna discuss the sale of
It was like a
Jupiter
stockholder
Hollow.
meeting for the
Right.
company. Yeah.
And they decide, the Lily Tomlin character, who's like, fuck that, absolutely not, this is my home, I'm gonna fight for it.
Right.
Decides to go to New York City.
She gets
and
the gumption to
contest.
go up to New York City and like talk to them.
Right.
And her sister comes along because she's fascinated by
Obsessed with New
the,
York.
like the urban lifestyle,
Yes.
and she wants to get away from her home
Gets her
because
press-on
it's not her
nails.
thing. Yes.
Yep, gets her.
Which was actually like one of my favorite things about the movie was watching that Bette Midler like walking through the city and like kind of like exploring and like learning, and
Yeah.
she picks up quickly like the joke with the taxi where she's trying to call a taxi and some person like takes it from her and she's like,
shoves her out
oh,
of the
the
way.
gall, and then
Gets
later in
in
the
the car.
movie she like grabs the dude and like throws him back and gets in the taxi. I loved that. I thought it was a great payoff. Actually, the jokes in this movie have like great payoff. Like for example, my favorite joke in the movie, which is also one of my favorite jokes now, is the homeless guy that hangs outside the hotel, and he's the only one that keeps seeing the twins that going
Yeah.
back and forth. And then when Fred Ward finally shows up, he's like, "Hey, you hang out here long enough, you see yourself come in and go." Like something he says something like that. And then not to get ahead of myself, but then at the end of the movie, I think it's during the credits actually.
Yeah.
An exact like twin of his comes out, and it ends with them both like looking at the camera like
CEO
shocked,
version of the
which
homeless
is
man walks
corny
by.
as fuck, but I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, every joke, you're right, every joke has a setup and a payoff.
Right.
Everything is executed.
I would have been pissed if the twins had never like crossed paths throughout the entire movie, but they eventually do.
Yeah.
It just comes way too late in the movie for it to be like a thing, though.
Well, there's a good part of the movie where the twins end up unknowingly engaging in each other's romantic partners and
Right.
like friends and family.
Because they're identical copies.
And
like,
so people are walking up to them going, "Oh, hey, you got to watch our kid tonight." And, you know, Bette Midler from the country, from Jupiter Hollow's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I never knew." And like the ex-husband's used to like this catty, bitchy, shitty,
yeah.
C word.
you know, and she's
Or
all
when
like,
she ties up Seth Green
she ties up
in the
Seth
fucking
Green,
toy store.
who plays like her kid, and she's like, "You got to take better care of this little fucking brat."
Yeah,
and,
I hate this piece of
and
shit. What are you
her-
doing?
And then the New York Bette Midler's ex-husband is like madly in
he's
love
like
with her
turned
now.
on like a
Yeah.
hardcore. He's
And
like,
he's
what
like,
the
"I've never seen you like this before," and she's like, "Well, you ain't gonna see it again anytime soon," or whatever. And
Yeah, because she thinks he's a total
yeah,
stranger.
he has no idea who the fuck
but
he
he
is.
thinks it's his fucking wife or
Yeah.
whatever.
And Lily Tomlin the New York City Lily Tomlin meets the country Lily Tomlin's like Beau, who I think his name is actually Beau. Comes from this country.
I don't think it's Bo, but it is like a really country fucking. No, he has an R name. I can't think of what it is though.
Is it Roy?
No, it's a weird name.
Roby. He comes up from the country. He follows Lily Tomlin's country character to New York City.
Rune. His name is Rune.
Okay, Rune. Rune comes up from the country to propose and ends up meeting the New York City Lily Tomlin and is trying to convince her to marry
They're a
him.
way better match.
And she has no idea who he is, but like, god damn it, if
Instantly
she's never
smitten.
been wetter in her
Yeah.
life. Like meeting this guy.
No,
who's,
she's like sploosh
muscular,
hardcore. Yeah.
and he's like talking about taking her home and fucking her on
He's
a cow
this like
patty.
tan, leathery skinned countryman with his
Yeah.
sleeves rolled up,
And
coming
he
over to
can't-
like.
he couldn't possibly even spell his own name, but he is super charming and very into her.
And sincere too, like
very sincere.
very easy to please, very sincere, very like down to earth.
And he's very like old timey, masculine, like gentlemanly. You know?
Fred Ward, who was a total fucking hunk, by the way. No matter how old that man gets.
And the end of the movie, I think all of the couples end up with the other person's partner.
Yeah, that's my complaint about the movie, though.
Okay.
Like when it get, like we're jumping a bit here, but like in the end of the movie, everybody just swaps partners, and I don't know if they've
no,
like.
yeah, like, it's
are they
super
even
normal.
aware that they're like not the same people?
And wouldn't
They
that-
must be because they see each other.
And you have to extrapolate it beyond the end credits to like, well, that's gonna be a really awkward Christmas. Like
Yeah.
really weird
Hey,
Thanksgiving.
remember when I was in love with you, but then I found your twin sister and I found out I loved her instead,
Well-
and you clearly had no problem with it, but it's weird for me.
And how are we going to explain this to mom and dad? Like, can you imagine the parents now, like, easily in their 70s, finding out that they raised
Well,
someone
I don't even
else's
know if they're
child?
alive. Like, I think they imply that they're all dead.
Okay.
Because I know that the rich couple are dead. Like I think Bette Midler at one point says something like, "If mom or dad were alive to see us," like that kind of thing.
Well, that makes
And I
sense.
think the same probably goes for the ones in the country too, because like Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin are like clearly in their 40s when this movie.
Yeah, they're
was
supposed
made.
to be 40. Yeah, it's
Right.
about
I mean, I
40.
don't know their actual age, but like I think they're supposed to be like in their 40s.
Yeah.
So like their parents were old when they were born, so
That
they're
makes
most likely
sense.
out of the picture.
And that's good writing, because then the director didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
When
It cuts the
adding
chef.
that into
yeah.
the scenes. Yeah, like who's gonna call mom and dad and tell them. So I want to talk a little bit about your reaction to this movie. You knew that Bette Midler was in it, obviously, when you clicked on the Play Movie Now page, because she's on the cover.
Yeah, it's hard to miss Bette Midler.
What were your thoughts, completely blind, just looking at the cover of this movie and like about to watch it?
When I first walked into the movie, when I first saw the cover, and I was like, "That's fucking Bette Midler," and somebody that I don't recognize, who is Lily Tomlin, who is awesome,
super famous,
who is super famous, that I guess I've just never like been familiar with, who I like a lot in retrospect. I knew it was going to be a comedy. There's no way you could make a movie that's starring Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin that's called Big Business with that those outfits they wear in the cover.
It's either going to be
And
that or a mafia movie, which I would easily also love.
I don't know if I could
probably.
see it as a mafia movie, but like I guess I could respect that. I went in with like as with everything we do, like no expectations whatsoever. And for most of the movie, to be completely honest, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it went on, it got more and more charming, and it had this sort of like archaic sense of comedy that I really liked a lot. And even though I didn't like the ending because I felt like everything was wrapped up way too quickly and like
most
cleanly.
90-minute comedies from
Right,
the 80s.
right.
Yeah.
It was very like something from like the 1940s, which
Okay.
I thought was a very fun throwback in like tone. But again, like I also, for some reason, I can't think of much off the top of my head besides like Short Circuit 2, movies that take place in like 1980s New
Movies with
York. Weekend at
blackface?
Bernie's. What?
It's the movies with blackface.
Oh my God, no, I forgot about that. No, Weekend at Bernie's, Short Circuit 2, movies that have this like really upbeat depiction of 1980s New York for some reason are super charming to me, which is what Big Business had.
Oh, absolutely.
In spades.
Like literally, there's like the Seth Green scene takes place in FAO Schwartz.
Yeah.
Like so, it's like
I
big.
still can't believe it was Seth Green.
Yeah, I know he's so cute.
He's something, all right.
He's like a little leprechaun. Did you do any research about this movie?
I did a little bit of research. I haven't, as of yet, in this show, gone quite in depth with the stuff that as you do. I'm very off
ready
the
to
cuff and
educate.
take it as it goes. You are more like classically educated and.
I'll be ready to school you on some fun facts if you want to hear 'em.
I would love to hear the fun facts.
Do you know who
because
directed this movie?
I don't.
Okay, so the director of this movie is Jim Abrams.
Okay.
So if you're not familiar with him, I'm gonna name some movie titles.
It's not J.J. Abrams.
Not
is it?
J.J. Abrams. No, it's just one J.
A different J. Abrams.
Yeah, singular J. So I'm gonna name some movie titles, and you just let me know if you've heard of them or seen them. The Kentucky Fried Movie,
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Airplane,
I love Airplane.
Top Secret,
Top Secret's funny.
Ruthless People,
I forgot about Ruthless
The
People.
Naked Gun,
Naked. Oh my God.
Hot Shots,
These are like Robert Zemeckis
Hot
movies.
Shots Part 2,
I
Mafia,
haven't heard of Mafia.
and Scary Movie 4.
Wow.
Yeah. So this guy is like, he was the comedy guy from the early 80s to the late 90s. Probably his biggest movie before Big Business was Top Secret, the movie that made Val Kilmer famous. It's a super quirky satire film if you've never seen it. And then Hot Shots, which is a Charlie Sheen film I think it's a spoof of Top Gun. If I had to
It's a spoof
guess.
of like a few different things.
Yeah, it's one of those and he did Airplane.
I know that Ryan
Sorry, I
Stiles
forgot about
is in
Airplane.
one of them, if not both of them, which is weird because I think it's the only movie I've ever seen him in.
If you've never seen Airplane, that should be the next film.
We watched
you
Airplane
watch.
in the theater.
Same director. So you can kind of get a sense of like where your idea
We're
of
not
like,
that old, audience. We went to go see like a re-release one night at a
I
local
was
theater.
36 years old when I saw Airplane in the theater
You're not
when
even
it came
36
out
no.
in 1980. But yeah, so your comment that this movie has that very 80s comedy trope, that kind of feel to it, that's why. So it's got the Jim Abrams all over it. The setup, the satire, the payoff, the kind of like there's points where it's like almost cringe humor, but you're laughing anyway,
Yeah.
just because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe like
One
they made
of
that
the
joke.
jokes I really liked in the movie was the two like corporate henchmen that were sent out to go intercept the what they thought were two men coming,
Yeah,
but it was
R.
the two women.
Ratliff. So it's
they didn't
Rose
know.
Ratliff, but they're assuming it's a man.
And then they
'cause
wind up
it's-
hanging out with Fred Ward for most of the movie, and the one dude clearly has a fucking crush on him, and he's like, "Oh, you ain't got to do that. Like, I'll just share the bed with one of y'all, but I'll sleep with my shirt off or something. There's a problem." And the one dude's like, "Oh,
Hide
oh
my boner,
really?
hide
Oh
my
my
boner, hide
God."
my boner. Yeah. Would you recommend this movie?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, I again, like, not to beat a fucking dead horse because we've said this in like I think every episode, but like, I wouldn't recommend this to everybody. But I think it's a fun movie, and I think that if you go into it with an empty mind, like, I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, I appreciate that you hadn't seen it because as we both talked about, Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin are comedic icons. Bette Midler arguably more famous than Lily Tomlin, depending on what type of circles you.
I mean, Bette Midler is
in.
like a
She's
huge
a triple threat.
She's a singer, actress,
yeah.
and Lily Tomlin, as far as I know, is just an actress. But like, still, like, just an actress is like a very reductionist way of putting it.
Well, she's been around since like the 60s, 70s. She made a movie with Steve Martin. She's been like in very famous films.
I'm sure of I have this thing where I don't really pay attention to who's in a movie. I don't necessarily tend to lose myself in the suspension of disbelief, but like, I don't pay attention to who's in a movie. Like, they're just characters to me. Even if they're portrayed with somebody that I like really recognize, unless they super stand out, I just don't. They're just background like noise.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe
it's not the person, it's not the actor, it's the character that I'm watching.
Yeah, maybe now you'll like as you go back, you'll be like, oh, Lily
Yeah,
Tomlin.
oh,
Like,
Lily
yeah,
Tomlin,
I'm
remember
seeing
this?
her
Yeah.
now. It's like when you buy a car and then you see your car everywhere.
Also, like my recognition of actors is very eclectic. Like, I could recognize Fisher Stevens at the drop of a hat, but like, I wouldn't be able to tell you like what the fuck, I don't know, Vin Diesel's been in. I don't know. I'm sure things are at the top of my head. I know he was in the Iron Giant.
Only
which,
the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
Like, was he in the D&D movie?
I don't know because I don't fucking I couldn't tell you who was in the D&D movie. I think Justin Long was in it, and like that was it.
Well, we'll do an entire podcast
Like
where we
maybe
just talk
Kenan
about Vin
Thompson,
Diesel
I think?
movies.
I don't remember.
So who do you think would benefit most from watching this movie? Like
Mitchell.
what kind of movie like lover should see this movie?
Gay men, for one thing.
Awesome. I totally agree.
Gay men would love this movie. Anybody who's seen First Wives Club and loved that would love this.
There is singing in this, because you mentioned First
There
Wives Club.
is,
There is a
and
musical
it was very
moment.
embarrassing, actually. Like,
It's
dressing
right in
up
the
Bette
middle-
Midler in
Yeah.
like a fucking like hillbilly outfit, and
She was
making
like
her
Raggedy
sing like
Andy.
yodel.
Or
like,
Anne, Raggedy Ann.
Yeah.
When's the girl?
I don't know. Gender is fucking means nothing.
There's
So
no gender. I always wondered if in the 80s and 90s, Bette Midler's contract included that she would be in a film, but only if she got to sing a musical number.
only if she yodels in front of a cow.
Only if she gets to milk a cow and yodel, because that does happen within the first like 15 minutes of this
Look,
movie.
I don't care how much you pay me. I don't think you get me to fucking yodel in front of a cow on film.
I think I could pay you enough.
I don't think you could. I've turned down way.
$15 million.
I don't know if I would do it. I don't know.
Can you yodel? Is that what would keep you from doing it?
I probably could. I don't want to try because I think yodeling is one of the lowest forms of communication.
If the cow wasn't looking at you, would that make a difference?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's not because the cow's
No,
there.
it's the act of yodeling itself.
Okay, so that's what I was
Like, I have a
inquiring.
video of me dancing almost naked with like a fucking toy doll and like when I was 10 years old, and that's less embarrassing than like getting me to yodel on camera.
So it's just the yodeling part that you have the
I
problem
think
with.
yodeling is fucking insipid.
So you're not a fan of the Cranberries.
Oh, wouldn't consider myself a fan.
I'm not a fan of the Cranberries.
Did the Cranberries yodel?
Yeah, it's Irish yodeling.
Ugh.
Like that zombie song.
Is that what Irish yodeling is?
I think so.
The high pitch, like.
You'll have to research it and let me know.
All right, whatever. We'll do an interim episode where I talk about the Cranberries.
That sounds great.
If that's the case, I don't care for the Cranberries. I don't know.
All right. Well, that's been Big Business.
Big business.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This has been another episode of HeadFever Podcast. Send your comments and complaints to theheadfeverpodcast@gmail.com.